All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm r.rekruciak, building principal of Elwood School, and hopefully for my own sake, getting some help for my own two kids as well, as they are in remote learning. Braden is in 3rd grade, and Addison is in remote learning with grandma and grandma. So 2 grandmas helping with remote learning with that. For spring break, I would just love to go anywhere where it's warm. How about you, Miss Francimore?
That sounds great. I also have a daughter at Lincoln Way West High School who's a junior who's going hybrid, and I have a freshman in college who's doing remote learning, and I would love to go anywhere warm also.
All right, let's see if this allows me. Oh, there it goes. All right, so we are going to be talking about stress, positive behavioral supports, and making friends during a pandemic. 3 big topics that a lot of our students have been telling us that, hey, these are things that are going on. Also, parents have been telling us that it's going on. Lots of research out there, and we just wanted to bring it all together for you in the next 20 or 30 minutes, talking about raising the COVID generation and how that has truly affected us as parents and our students and children as well. Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute at any time. You don't have to turn your camera on. You could just unmute and ask a question. I think there's a feature on here where you can raise your hand, but it's probably best just to unmute and just say your name and what kind of question you have as we go along. Ready, Mrs. Francimore?
We're ready.
Okay.
So this first slide, we just kind of, there's a lot of videos out there. We thought that were the most powerful, where it's kids talking about how they are being impacted. So this was just a little intro into our presentation.
So we would show it to our in-person friends that were coming in. Unfortunately, we do not have any in-person adults attending as of right now. So this slideshow will also be linked to anyone who would like to view it. So you can click on the links at a later time. It'll be emailed out to you as well. Right. Yeah, it's a little tough to watch videos in Zoom because usually you don't get any audio.
It just is probably the same things that your kids have been telling you. It just kind of drives home, exactly how they are feeling. We all know is how we're feeling as adults, it's just how they're feeling, which kind of leads into the next 2 slides. Mental health issues have just increased a great deal in the last 11 months. So just some research how the pandemic has impacted our kids' mental health. One doctor was saying his patient visits are up 4-fold. So that's a child and adolescent psychiatrist. And then college students' mental health. 3 out of 4 college students between the ages of 18 and 24 report poor mental health tied to the pandemic. So those are college students basically reporting that they are suffering from anxiety or depression. So those rates are definitely higher than they have been in the past. And then our next slide kind of just talks about those same types of things. The percentage of the kids concerned about returning to school by grade level, you can see it's anywhere between 50 and 75%. So our kids are nervous. We've done a great job of teaching them safety skills and social distancing and wearing masks, but they get how serious it is. And so they're just anxious coming back. And then the right just kind of was COVID's mental stress, that chart on the right. US adults on the bottom reporting symptoms of anxiety or depression. So you can see January through June of 2019, it was about 11% of our population, and it had shot up to 42%.
Those are some huge statistics there, as Mrs. Francimore had spoke. The nervousness, you can see students at the beginning when we were full hybrid, the nervousness of just walking down the hallways. They were nervous about what the actual expectations are. So we truly appreciate your support as you went over different videos with them, coach them up from home as well. And even when we transitioned back into full day, which we've been now for a little bit over a week for full day with lunch and different types of mass breaks, You could definitely see, as Mrs. Francimore and I were in pretty much every single lunchroom, the nervousness of students just eating. You've talked to them at home the importance of wearing a mask. We've talked to them, and now we're asking them to take a mask off with PPE dividers. So some of the students are definitely coming around and being a little bit more social. And that's what we're hoping for, to get back into some social aspects that we'll talk in some later slides here. So how can we help? This video is the 5T strategies for promoting student mental health. Once again, we'll send you out the email so you can view those 5 strategies with your family at a later date. Oh, we have a friend coming in. Tips to manage anxiety related to COVID-19 and remote learning. So actually the first one, follow a routine, is something that we've been talking about all week with students as we get back into a new routine with our full day instruction, and even for our students at home. Mrs. Francimore, we're talking about tips to manage anxiety.
Oh, sure.
We have different sleep patterns and sleep hygiene. Very important for when it gets into anxiety, eating well, exercise. We've all heard these things for ourselves as adults, but it's even more precedent with our students that are going through a lot of changes. Improve engagement, limit COVID-19 research and conversations. The media sometimes plays tricks on our young friends' minds. Focus on the values and morals of your own home and increase self-compassion. We do have a spike here at school as well with students. We talked about anxiety and a little bit of depression as well. As always, reach out for help to my office. Mrs. Francimore and Mrs. Francimore has a wealth of knowledge for our local community as well, for outside supports. At Linden Oaks is one of the top ones. As you can see, it's referenced at the bottom here.
Yeah, so the next page was just, I wanted parents to know all the things that we're doing here at Elwood School to support our students in a social emotional way. So Mr. r.rekruciak does a great job of reading mindfulness announcements on Monday mornings. We know that from the research that actually yoga and mindfulness are the top research-based interventions for anxiety. So if that's something you can build into your child's day, there's tons of free apps and just great ways you can build that in. We do have the second step social emotional learning curriculum in grades K through 5, and we're doing a growth mindset curriculum with grades 6 through 8. I am here full time, available to all the students. We do have a social emotional learning committee that meets monthly, and all we talk about is how we can support our kids, what we can do to help their social emotional needs. We have incentive charts and reward systems in place for kids who need it. We just started our mentoring program with 25 staff members trained and assigned to students. We have a sensory path put in a hallway for sensory input and movement that our kids have loved. It's basically different stickers and activities on the floor, and they can kind of go through and follow all the little directions, and they absolutely love it as a break as part of their day. Daily gym class, mask breaks, and movement breaks are built in the day, and we're just keeping our kids connected to each other.
Absolutely.
Whether they're in person or remote.
I think the biggest one is what we're focusing on here with you, trying to make those connections from home, as we know that school is just another bridge from the community and the home. So positive behavioral supports to use at home. So we talked a little bit about what's going on here at school. As we mentioned before, Sue and I both have children of our own. Whenever we speak to parents, or hopefully eventually it'll be in the hallway, but more than not, it's through conversation on the phone, or sometimes we do virtual meetings. Some of the first things we always say is, we are the guide to help you get that support. You're the parent. We are here to help you with that. So how to support your child And manage, we are not telling you how to manage that. We're just guiding you and giving you that support.
So this first one is from childmind.org, and it's just tips for nurturing and protecting kids at home during this crazy, stressful time. So kids do best when you keep routines in place, be creative about new activities and exercise. I think that's even trickier when you're in the house, but I have heard, people are just bundling their kids up and getting them out. Manage your own anxiety and limit consumption of news. A lot of times we don't realize that ears are listening, and then the kids have a difficult time processing kind of what they're hearing, and that can cause them more anxiety. Stay in touch virtually with people that you might not be able to see, grandparents, anyone that is meaningful in your life and their life. Make positive plans to do things, even if it's a family movie night, family game night. Try to keep it positive, keep kids in the loop, but keep it simple. Check in with your little kids to check their understanding. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the right path. Accept and ask for help. And we will talk at the end of the presentation. There's kind of a guide of when do we know that our student needs more help? Because like Mr. r.rekruciak said, we definitely have seen a spike of anxiety and depression with our kids this year.
And this is a really nice tip or checklist tool, as we do with our staff here at school, as we do with the students. You take a look at all the tips and you take a look at the checklist, and what's one thing that we can focus on just this week? How can we keep it simple when we all have checklists in our lives? And you just pull one out. Maybe it's limit consumption of news. So, hey, this week I'm going to cut back on the social media with my child. Maybe the next one is keep kids in the loop, but keep it simple. Just the good old fashioned picking up the phone. A lot of our students, when they come into the office, and even in years past, they don't know how to use the phone. So just picking up the phone and having a conversation with a relative, a cousin, a neighbor, is something that can definitely help with our supporting of our kids.
Yeah, and the next view is just a response to a lot of parents' frustration with getting kids to do work. And a lot of this was when we had that virtual, the remote learning in the afternoon. Parents were really pulling their hair out trying to get kids to complete the assignments. And, parents have to work. They can't sit all the time and hold their students' hand, especially our older junior high kids. So there's just a bunch of different tools. We can kind of go through these next slides, but they're all free. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Teachers Pay Teachers. These are all just free documents if you want to try and have a visual. Visuals can help us remember what we're promising our kids and help them remember what they're working for. Sometimes it can be great to have a motivator at the end of the week, and this doesn't have to cost money. A lot of times it can be you pick a game that the family's going to play together, or you pick a meal I'm going to cook this weekend. So the first one is just those kind of checklists and working for. That second slide is just first this, then this. If it's an activity that students absolutely hate, if somebody's struggling with reading, okay, first you're reading, then 5 minutes of reading, I'll read you a book, or 5 minutes of playing Uno, whatever that would be. And then the next slide is just give choices. Kids who are struggling with any type of behavior, one of the easiest things you can do is give them choices of what they can do first, what they're working for, how they want to complete a task. They want to use a marker, they want to use a colored pencil, who they want to complete the task with, maybe the order of the things they're going to do. Do you want to do science first? Do you want to do math first? Funny things to wear or use while they work, maybe borrowing something of mom's or dad's that they want to put on. So all of those things can just kind of help with work completion and with behavior. And then just the last one is using timers. So there's strategies you can tweak to work for any child. This one is to set a timer for 25 minutes. When it goes off, set for a 5-minute break. Now this would of course be for an older student. We wouldn't expect a first grader to work for 25 minutes solid, but like our junior high kids. And then, having a motivating break for that 5 minutes.
Absolutely. So a lot of them here are talking about visuals. Even having a timer that's visual is beneficial. Giving those breaks, having visuals on the refrigerator, in their room, somewhere where they know that they're showing ownership of their work and they feel proud of it. Um, I think what Sue also mentioned is if you know that incentive is not working or is taking too long for the incentive for the student or for your child, just dialing it back and giving more incentives until we get that positivity and that work accomplished.
You're kind of the king of this next one, Mr.
Yes,
Rekruciak.
we love brain breaks here. The students kind of laugh at me because as they go past my office, we have lots of different brain breaks just outside of my office. Maybe it's just a stuffed animal that sings music to them. They also know that I'm a mover. I actually don't really have a desk. I stand at a desk, and a lot of my students have asked, can I stand at the back of a classroom? Absolutely. Whatever works best for the student or the child to work in any environment. As you know, that we've had students working from their bed, we've had students working from kind of a makeshift closet during remote learning. So let's take a look at what brain breaks are at a glance here. So brain breaks can make homework less frustrating for kids with learning and thinking differences. So when you think about homework, you've been at work all day long and then you have different tasks, making it fun. For an adult, you think about making dinner. How can you have brain breaks when you're making dinner and getting homework going? We talked about age appropriate time limits as well. The rule of thumb is 10 minutes per grade level. So if you're starting in first grade, you should have about 10 minutes of work to do, and then you're taking a break. As you get up into the older grades, that doesn't mean that you have to work. If I'm a third grader, I have 30 minutes of work. That can all be broken up into 10-minute segments. So I have 10 minutes, take a brain break, another 10 minutes. A lot of times our math worksheets can be split into half. You can take a Post-it note and cover up the ones that we're only focusing on at that one time. Brain breaks can include physical activities or relaxing or quiet activities. You'll start to know that, hey, if we do brain breaks or physical activities and it takes a really long time to get back into the groove of things, we might want to pick a relaxing or quiet activity for the next time, especially if we need to go somewhere or transition to do something. There's wonderful free videos on YouTube as well as Go Noodle. And I'm sure some of the kids will come home and tell you what type of brain breaks they do here at school. They're silly, they're funny. Obviously, as an adult, we think, wow, this is pretty ridiculous. I can't believe they love that so much. But the sillier the song or the more movement is better for them. Um, as far as brain breaks, you set the ground rules for that. Thinking about space. We actually have a remote learning PE class going on right now with Mr. Crop. So Mr. Crop goes over, hey, we're going to do a lot of physical activity, so make sure you have the space in your home to do that. Now that it's getting nicer outside, of course, brain breaks outside are even better. The key is to take them before fatigue or distraction or lack of focus sets in. Sometimes when you come home from work or when they get off the school bus, you can kind of see it in their eyes right away that either something happened, they're fatigued, or you're trying to have a conversation with them and they're already thinking about two other different things going on. For grade schoolers, we're talking about 10 to 15 minutes. And once again, middle and our eighth grade friends, 30 minutes of work before a break.
All right, this next one is just positive supports for the whole family. It's so important to stay connected, stay in touch with teachers and other parents to work through things together. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I guarantee you there are probably, more people than you realize that are struggling with kids or that are worried about things just like you are. And I like this positive spin on it was to enjoy family time. It's a stressful time, but it's also an opportunity. We've all had extra time at home. You can talk to your child about their strengths, their interests, where they might need more support. A positive thing that might come out of it is that you'll get a more close-up look at how your kids are progressing and what they need. So you can then better partner with the teachers and the school to support their overall learning.
Thank you, Sue. And once again, as you can see, some different articles that we link to this slideshow. The slideshow will be emailed to all of you at a later date. And once again, if you wanted to share this great presentation with anyone, it'll be on the YouTube channel in a couple days. Once again, if you do have questions, you can unmute at any time or
Shout them out.
shout them out. Yep.
So we wanted to address making friends. I think this has been the hardest thing for kids coming back to school. We really have tried to build in social times, but it is not the same as it used to be without recess, without close interaction, kids being able to sit side by side and read a book in the library. So we just kind of read some research about, the most profound way that COVID has affected our kids is that it's impacted their friendships. Social isolation, mask wearing, social distancing, closures have meant that making friends has to take completely different forms for our kids. So I'm sure that this has worried parents. We all want our kids to be happy. We know that childhood is meant to be shared with friends, and socializing is just so important for our kids' well-being. So we have all seen how our kids suffer without those friendships. We all want to make childhood as normal, stress-free, and happy as possible. But there are many ways we can help our kids make friends and socialize with the friends they have, and cope with the changes that the pandemic has brought. So, we're figuring out a lot of different fun, interactive things at school. The kids love to play against each other on, games on their devices. And like we talked about, we have those second step groups where the kids can do role play, and they have partner activities where there's still distance, but they get to discuss things. And our teachers have a lot of discussion going on in the classrooms. And then there's some ideas for families for making friends during the pandemic on that next slide.
Yeah, as many of you has brought up in the beginning of the year, how are we going to keep our kids social and safe? Obviously, our number one that I had for students and families was to keep all of them safe. But here's just some, once again, it's another checklist. Checklists can be very overwhelming. Think about what's one thing that we could just focus on this week. All right, online enrichment classes. Where's the best place to go? Probably the local library has lots of online enrichment classes that actually do Zooms just like this. Good old-fashioned pen pals, getting them to write or draw a picture and sending it to loved ones or grandparents is another great one. Family game nights. So lots of items that you can check off the list, call it a bucket list. Someone told me the other day that we only have like 11 more Mondays of school. So we're thinking about different activities to do here at school, but then once the kids leave school too, thinking about bringing them into summer, how are we going to be socializing them in the summertime as well?
All right. And then our last slide is just, how do I know if my child needs professional help? I always tell parents, it's just like it would be for an adult. If you feel like a mental health issue is impacting your kid's quality of life, just like if it were for you, then it's time to talk to your pediatrician, maybe a counselor. So some signs of depression, it looks a little bit different in kids than it does in adults. So some depression signals in younger children are extreme fussiness, trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, feeding issues or digestive distress, lots of stomach aches, separation anxiety, kind of withdrawing, wanting to be off by themselves, more frequent or inconsolable tantrums, or potty training regression or bedwetting. And then in our older kids, if you're having more frequent conflicts and aggressive behavior, if they withdraw from socializing within the family or even among their friends, a loss of interest in activities, difficulty sleeping, extreme changes in eating, problems concentrating or completing schoolwork, and engaging in any kind of risky behavior, maybe sneaking out, not telling their parents where they're going, kind of not going right home after school, those types of things. Those might all signal that it's time to reach out and get some professional help. And like we said in the beginning, our rates are 4 times higher of seeking out that professional help. So we all know this is just an incredibly stressful time, and there is help out there. I also have a, I'll have Mr. rekruciak put it with the YouTube video. We have a resource directory that Catholic Charities puts out at the beginning of every school year. And there's just great, there's crisis hotlines, there's counseling centers, there's family service centers. And we know a lot of our families have had financial stressors. You know, we know that the parents, you know, a lot of people's jobs have been reduced. So there's financial services, all kinds of information on there for you as well.
All right.
I'll share that with you right now. So we would love to know, you know, has this been helpful? Are there other questions you have? How else can we support you or your kids? Does anybody have any type of, you know, question, comment, concern?
Thank you. Yeah, there's lots of resources in the area here, as well as the Joliet area and getting into the New Lenox area. As always, feel free to reach out to Mrs. Francimore or myself. This presentation has been recorded. We will edit some of it, some of our silliness in the beginning. But just know the slides have quite a few links inside of all of them to skim over. As Sue had mentioned, this is the big one that we're taking away from this presentation, which would be all the way back into some statistical components of where we were, where we're kind of hopefully on the decline of the anxiety, the stress, and trying to figure out where all the pieces lay for the fourth quarter and as we transition to summer. When speaking of summer, this is just a shameless plug. We will be sending out quite a bit of information on summer school this year. For parents that are interested in that, please reach out to me. It's a great program. It's a small group program and basically individualized by grade level as well. So without further ado.
Yeah, the last thing I want to say is give yourselves a break right now. A lot of parents have been really stressed that I've talked to, and they're kind of racking their brain like, what should I be doing differently? There has to be something I'm not thinking of. This is just a really rough time. And I think that one thing we overlook is, as parents, give yourself a break. And, you know, I know it's a big punch word out there right now is self-care, but it really is. Carve some time out for yourself. If you can't do it every day, every couple days, to do something that just de-stresses you, whether it's reading a book, taking a bath, going for a walk, having some time to fill your cup so that you can help your kids, because this is just such a crazy and hard time on everyone. But I think it's especially hard to watch our kids suffer and to just be thinking there has to be something, and there isn't. We're all just kind of in this horrible holding pattern. And, you know, just the fact that you came to this shows that you're reaching out, you're trying to find resources, you're doing everything possible. It is just a really difficult time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for attending. And like we tell our students, sometimes we talk about thinking outside of the box, and what do our students tell us? They say, Mr. rekruciak, we need to get rid of the box because we can't be contained by the box. We need to be way above it. So once again, thank you all, and we'll be sending you more information.